home. This is a special story of Pequatchie. And in this story reveals the teachings of the way of counsel, which is an old way of listening and speaking and being in togetherness. Feel into these words and feel into the way that these beautiful people of the Salish lands spoke and listened and connected as a people. See, the lands that I'm on are what are now the native lands of the Duwamish, the Muckleshoot, Snoqualmie, and the Puyallup, amongst others. And here beneath the Emerald Forest, the base of Mount Tahoma, which translates as the Mother of Waters, these people, well, they still live in ceremony and rituals and with rich cultural ways. They have a way of life that connects them to the land and with each other, to the great hoop cycle of the changing seasons. Well, long ago, amongst the people, there was a boy who was just initiated into adolescence, and he was given the name Pequatchie, which means mole in the Lushootseed language of the Salish. And he was named that way because the people said he was blind like a mole. Not blind like, from sight. Okay? He could see, but he was blind to his other senses. He seemed unaware of other people and how other people were affected by him. He did not know how to listen. When people were talking, he would often interrupt them and even randomly change the subject back to him or something else. It was as if he was in the dark, and so they called him Pequatchie, mole. Have you ever been around someone who wasn't, fully listening? You could tell they weren't really listening or interested in what you were saying. Perhaps you could sense they were already preparing their reply before you even finished your words. So the people did not like speaking with Pequatchie, and they avoided having him in their groups. But one day, Pequatchie's grandfather, who was named Subquaw, or Great Heron, he observed him and he wanted to help Pequatchie discover his medicine, like his unique gifts, so that he could be more present with others. And he saw that Pequatchie would have a hard life if he did not learn how to listen in a good way. So Subquaw, who is part of the tribal council and part of the elders circle, right? He wanted to help him. Now, to sit on any council as a representative of the people, like a person would have to prove through example that he or she was worthy of the honor. They would have to have many years of being truthful, having a reputation of being brave and compassionate, giving, a good listener, a discreet counselor. All these went into the making of the Council of Chiefs. So Subquaw decided it was time that Pequatchie sat in on one of these council meetings and experienced the deep teachings of the way of counsel. Now, Pequatchie was very excited to see how these elders and these council members debated one another. He always just thought they were so silent and so boring. How are they going to be in a hot debate about this hot topic, right? So Subquaw, he brought Pequatchie in, and he sat him next to a mentor in the back of the lodge, and he said, "Hoobala, hoobala," which means be quiet, be still. You are here only to listen and observe. Then Subquaw, he joined the elders. Soon all the elders and council members who were of different stages of life, different clans, they all came walking in single file and sat in a circle around the fire. They drummed for some time and they sang the song called Ancestors Calling. All the while, thick plumes of smoke from sage and other sacred offerings, such as cedar and tobacco, waft up and became illuminated in the sunbeams streaming down through the smoke hole of the lodge. They called in the ancestors, the spirits of the four-legged, the flyers, the birds, the crawlers, the swimming relatives, called in the wind and the moon and the sun. As they sung and drummed, Pequatchie could feel the spirits of the animals, the plants, and the ancestors arrive. Never had he felt anything like it. first, he was even scared. Then suddenly, the drumming and the singing stopped, and all was silent. Pequatchie waited in great anticipation for this debate to occur, but to his wonderment, they all just sat there in silence for what seemed like a long, long time. He tried to tug on one of his mentor's clothes, but he whispered, "Hoopala, hoopala, be quiet, be still," as if you could hear a blade of grass growing. Then the chief began to speak, and his words carried a story. And he spoke of the story for some time. And then again, there was this long pause after he finished his story. And the room was all silent. You could have heard a mouse walking. Then the chief passed the talking stick to the man next to him. And after he held that with prayers and silence, connecting in with his heart, he too began to tell a story. And on it went through the day and long into the night, one elder passing the talking stick to the next, telling stories, and then pausing in a deep gravity of silence, letting those words sink in and integrate. Sunbeams that had streamed through the smoke hole of the lodge became replaced with moonbeams as the bone flint of the moon leaned in to listen to the council's stories. Pequatchie could see that the shadows of the ancestors grow tall on the walls of the council lodge, enlivened by the dancing flames of the fire. Pequatchie had often heard of the prayers and the stories of the ancestors, but now they were very much alive. Finally, the moon had drank in her fill of stories. The trees, who were leaning in, now stood straight. The crickets had entered a deep meditation of silence. Even the rivers had become quiet. They all gave thanks once more for the ancestors and the spirits. And then, one by one, the elders stood and exited the lodge. Pequatchie was confused. He ran over to his grandfather, Sepquaw, and he asked, Grandfather, are they done? They didn't even speak about the issue." Sepquaw, in a very deep presence in space, he said they have discussed all that was to be discussed and came to a decision. Pequatchie was shocked. "How could they have come to a decision, grandfather? All they did was tell stories." Sepquaw, again in his deep presence, said, "Pequatchie, you were not listening. This is the way of counsel. You must learn to listen beyond words, where the soul of what's spoken connects us to the soul of the world." Pequatchie asked, "How do I learn to listen in such a way, grandfather? I want to learn. Please show me." "You must learn to listen," said Sepquaw, "like the eagle listens with her feathers as she glides high in the wind. You must learn to listen like fox listens to mouse scurrying beneath the snow. You must learn to listen like a new mother listens to the heartbeat of her newborn child." Pequatchie, in deep wonderment, asked, "How is it that they listen, grandfather?" And grandfather, Sepquaw, he said, "Each listening is a form of seeking, a form of searching, extending out of themselves and becoming what they seek. Eagle seeks for the messages in the wind, and when she connects, she becomes part wind. Fox, searching for the movement of mouse beneath the snow, predicts mouse, becomes part mouse. The mother listens into the heartbeat of her baby, and they are one. When you listen in this way, Pequatchie, you are now listening through your heart. And when you can listen through your heart, you begin to allow your heart to speak through you." Pequatchie, feeling as if the veils of some major secrets of life were being revealed, asked, "How do I learn this, grandfather? Please teach me, teach me, teach me." And Subquat said, "I cannot teach you, Pequatchie. This you must go and learn yourself. You must go into the forest and apprentice yourself to the way deer listens, to the trees, to the wind and the river. Only they can teach you to listen in the way we call, the way of counsel." So every day, from that day forward, Pequatchie ventured deep into the forest. He was determined to learn the way of counsel. Never had he felt such a special power and connection to life. He'd sit there for a long time in silence. Many times he got bored, but then he would reset his resolve. First, deer appeared to him. He noticed how deer walked so silently, he could not hear deer, even when he strained his ears. He noticed deer would take a few steps, then pause and listen. Each step carefully placed, as if searching, connecting with the land, speaking with it. He did this with the rivers, with the wind, with all the living things. Now back at the village, Pequatchie became known with a new understanding of life. The village people began approaching him. He had a new gravity, a new sense of ability to listen. Where before Pequatchie was self-absorbed, he now walked in a humbled way. He was compassionate, caring of others, and he was very giving. After several years of this, he earned his seat as a council member, and the way of counsel was passed down to him, along with the songs, the stories, and rituals. He learned how to carry these in a good way, to tend to them and keep them as a part of his medicine bundle. Now, years later, invaders had came into over their lands, and they separated the people, forbade them from doing their ceremonies, and punished the council members. They were forced to do their councils in secret. So much was lost until finally they were able to do their ceremonies once again. Pequatchie, now an elder, began to share the way of counsel and other ceremonies. These people in turn were empowered to share them with others, and they with others. Eventually, Red Eagle of the Puyallup tribe was gifted the way of counsel in the Inipi ritual, the sweat lodge. And it is Red Eagle who then shared the way of counsel and the Inipi ritual with me. Over years, other elders and other traditions have added to the depth of the way of counsel for me, learning the next level in proportion to my own personal deepening of living the way. And so now I begin to share the way of counsel with you. And this is the story of Pequatchie and the teachings of the way of counsel.